Salam alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome to another Quran study. Today we're going to be reading Surah 28 from verse 2. Let's all seek refuge in God from Satan the rejected. Adudu billahi minash shaitani rajim. Bismillah rahmani rahim. These letters, verse 2, these letters constitute proofs of this profound book. We recite to you herein some history of Moses and Pharaoh, truthfully for the benefit of the people who believe. So, mashallah, and we see in verse 3 that, mashallah, and then before that, the letters um, that very big part of the miracle is mentioned, and then it continues to say about talking about the history of Moses and Pharaoh, and God says for the benefit of people who believe. So, mashallah, that's very important as well. Verse 4: Pharaoh turned into a tyrant on earth and discriminated against some people. He persecuted a helpless group of them, slaughtering their sons while sparing their daughters. He was indeed wicked. So, mashallah, like even like from then, from like you learn in history, and you see today all this persecution going on and all these horrible things, like this still tops a lot of the things going on today, and things that you hear in history. Like it was like very mashallah, it was very disgusting as well, as well as horrible. And it was just the things Pharaoh did was just truly horrible. Inshallah. Verse 5: We will to compensate those who were oppressed on earth, and to turn them into leaders and make them the inheritors. So, mashallah, that's exactly what's happening even now. These people that got persecuted, like those people right now, like even though they're wicked as well, they have like a lot of power, and you don't even hear nothing about Pharaoh's people. And even at the time of Moses as well, that happened. Like God says that, when Moses parted the sea by God's leave, they um, ended up staying there, and that ended up being their place, and their home and stuff like that. And then we see as well that like I was saying, even today, those people that God is mentioning in the Quran, they have a lot of power right now too, and you never hear nothing about Pharaoh's people. Like they're completely wiped out. Even though the people I'm talking about, they're wicked as well. But mashallah. Verse 5: We will to compensate those who were oppressed on earth, and to turn them into leaders and make them oh yeah. Verse 6: Inheritors, and to establish them on earth, and to give Pharaoh, Haman, and their troops a state of their own medicine, a taste of their own medicine. So yeah, mashallah, that goes to like what I just explained as well. Mashallah. And they indeed did get a taste of their own medicine. Verse 7: We inspired Moses, mother nurse him, and when you fear for his life, throw him into the river, without fear or grief. We will return him to you and will make him one of the messengers. So, mashallah, I'm not sure like how the mother received this message, like what it was from an angel, or I'm not sure really how she received this message, but she received it somehow. I'm not sure. We'll probably talk about it in the end of the Quran study. And so, mashallah, like imagine as a, like I'm not sure, how I'm I'm not sure, how a mother thinks, but like you could see a lot like mothers today, like even the mothers that don't believe, they you could see they're always with their kids and always next to them, and their kids are everything to them and stuff like that. So imagine God's telling the mother of Moses just to throw him in the river, and like just trust me, like I got this, So it was a test for her as well. So and yeah, it was a test for her, and we'll read more right now. Verse 8. Pharaoh's family picked him up, only to have him lead the opposition and to be a source of grief for them. That is because Pharaoh, Haman, and their troops were transgressors. So, mashallah, um, yeah. So we see, as a baby, they had no idea, what was going on or anything like that. Moses ended up growing up, and they by God's leave, they ended up the Mo, Moses was giving them chances, by God's leave, and telling them like to believe and stuff like that. And they didn't. They ended up not believing, and by God's leave, they got destroyed. So mashallah, it was so yeah, mashallah. Inside the lion's den. Verse 9. Pharaoh's wife said, "This can be a joyous find for me and you. Do not kill him, for he may be of some benefit for us, or we may adopt him to be our son." They had no idea. So, mashallah, yeah, like I was just explaining, um, they had no idea, what was gonna. Only God knows the future, and God knew how this was gonna happen, and in a way, you could say God subdued them, like to like not know anything, and just like ended up adopting him, and mashallah, they had no idea, that he was gonna end up being one of the messengers, and was gonna end up being a test basically for them as well, like to believe and to kill their egos, and we later see that Pharaoh didn't. He was very ignorant and very evil. He didn't take heed. Verse 10. The mind of Moses' mother was growing so obnoxious that she almost gave away his identity, but we strengthened her heart to make her a believer. So mashallah, yeah. So here comes like her mother instinct. She's like it was a test for her, and it was to strengthen her belief. And mashallah, like it was, as a mother, I can only imagine, how difficult the test was, but it was to strengthen her and to make her, to strengthen her belief, make her a believer. So mashallah, she did trust in God, and we're gonna later see, the benefit of that, mashallah. Verse 11. She said to his sister, "Trace his path." She watched him from afar, while they did not perceive. So mashallah, see, I'm pretty sure that this is the mother, and her instinct, like still, even though God told her these things, like I'm not sure, like if this was still guidance, like, or if it was just her instinct, like telling his sister, like, go, or if it was it's kind of hard for me to explain it, but mashallah. Verse 12. The infant returned to his mother. Verse 12. We forbade him from accepting all nursing mothers. His sister then said, "I can show you a family that can raise him for you and take good care of him. So, mashallah, this is another very important verse because this fits perfectly like with the messenger of the covenant. Always said, that God is running everything, mashallah. Like a baby, he's hungry, he wants to drink milk, and here comes Moses. By God was controlling everything. Moses wasn't drinking from no one, and it was all so Moses could be returned back to his mother by God's leave, and her mother could, God reassures her, like, and she now knows, like, mashallah, strengthen her belief, and he trusted God, and mashallah, God is the most gracious, most merciful, and the reward she got, was her son back, and it's just something amazing. God's running everything. Verse 13. Thus we restored him to his mother in order to please her, remove her worries, and to let her know that God's promise is the truth. However, most of them do not know. So, mashallah, yeah, this explains it better what I was trying to explain. But yeah, um, so yeah, God, God delivered, mashallah, and and then it says in the end of the verse, most of them do not know. So, mashallah, probably like God is saying, like a lot of people don't believe, and a lot of people like don't have disbelief, like with the mother of Moses had, like how he trusted God. Mashallah, I'm not really sure. We'll talk probably in the end of the Quran study. Or you could probably say as well that a lot of people ain't gonna believe in the miracles, so they're probably not gonna believe in this, in this verse and what exactly it says as well. Mashallah. Let's go to verse 14. Verse 14, when he reached maturity and strength, we endowed him with wisdom and knowledge. We thus reward the righteous. So, mashallah, now it's talking about how Moses grown up, and God blessed him with wisdom and knowledge. God knew he was righteous, since he was a kid, and he was going to grow up to be one of um, God's messengers. And um, Moses was actually like one of, like, he talked to God directly, mashallah. He has that to say unique about, it was just Moses, mashallah. So he's um he's an important prophet, mashallah. They are, but he talked to God directly, and that's amazing, mashallah. Verse 15. Once he entered the city unexpectedly without being recognized by the people, he found two men fighting. One was Hebrew from his people, and the other was an Egyptian from his enemies. The one from his people called on him for help against his enemy. Moses punched him, killing him. This is the work of the devil. He is a real enemy and a profound misleader. So yeah, mashallah, I'm pretty sure Moses didn't expect, like for him to die probably like from a punch, and so basic when probably, when he died, he was like very, like pretty sure everybody has got that feeling when you just, like you get yourself in a situation, and it's just like, it's just God there, mashallah, is you just put your all your attention to God. So, mashallah, I think this is like it seems like it's one of those situations for Moses. Verse 16, he said, "My Lord, I have wronged my soul. Please forgive me," and he forgave him. He is the forgiver, most merciful. Mashallah. So yeah, like I was saying, he implored just God, and he knew it was something horrible that he did. Mashallah. I don't know the feeling, but it must have been a very serious feeling. Mashallah. For Moses, and he implored God. God alone, and God forgave him. Mashallah. That's one of the most important commandments. So Moses went directly just to God, and God forgave him. Mashallah. Verse 17, he said, "My Lord, in return for your he said, My Lord, in return for your blessings upon me, I will never be a supporter of the guilty ones." So mashallah, right here, Moses expresses his appreciation, and it's very important as well. He implored God alone, and he stayed in that path, mashallah, and he like made a firm stand that there's gonna be his path, and that he showed his appreciation. In other verses in the Quran, God talks about people that are in similar situations, and then God saves them, and then they end up being unappreciative and imploring other things other than God. So it's a very important verse as well, that you know Moses stayed in the right path. He did something that wasn't good, mashallah, and he implored God alone, and he was appreciative, mashallah. He stayed in the path. Verse 18. In the morning he was in the city, afraid and watchful. The one who saw his help yesterday asked for his help again. Moses said to him, "You are really a troublemaker." So mashallah, here comes the same person, mashallah, and he's in trouble again, and now Moses, I'm pretty sure he's closer to God now. How everything that he went and he went through, and what I was just talking about, and and then he sees this guy again going through the same thing, and now he knows, mashallah, that he's a troublemaker, that he's just in the wrong path. Verse 19. Before he attempted to strike the common enemy, he said, "O Moses, do you want to kill me as you killed the other man yesterday? Obviously, you wish to be a tyrant on earth. You do not wish to be righteous." So what I understand here is that he's basically Moses didn't want to help him no more, so he's not gonna fight the person he's fighting or try to protect this troublemaker. So now, this troublemaker, mashallah, now he's turning his back on Moses. Now he's like, because Moses is like against him now. Like with the wisdom he has now, but God's grace, and now he's like turning his back, like nothing happened, like they like Moses didn't help him, or nothing like that. Now it's just he's gonna turn his back on him, and like they never knew each other, basically, just because Moses recognizes the truth, and he's letting them know the truth. He's even calling them names to a tyrant on earth. You do not wish to be righteous. Verse 20, a man came running from the other side of the city, saying, "O Moses, the people are plotting to kill you. You better leave immediately. Uh, immediately. I am giving you good advice." So mashallah, here comes a guy that I'm understanding that Moses never met and nothing like that, but he has certain information that could help Moses. So he's telling him, like, and everything is but God's leave. God is running everything. So he's telling Moses, like he's giving him valuable information, mashallah, to like so he could um, end up escaping and getting away from the trouble that could have came to him. So he's somebody that was wishing good for Moses, mashallah. The person said, the same verse, I am giving you good advice. MashaAllah. Verse 21, he fled the city afraid and watchful. He said, my Lord, save me from the oppressive people. 22. As he traveled towards Midi- Midian, he said, may my Lord guide me in the right path. So mashallah, Moses is thinking about God all the time. That's another important thing too, mashallah. How we know as submitters we must always think about God. And here's Moses, through his journey in this difficult journey that he was in, he's thinking about God. And we'll learn more in other verses that he keeps thinking about God all the time, mashallah. So it's very important to always say God's name and always remember God, mashallah, publicly and privately. And verse 22 in Midian, Midian, Midian or Midian. Verse 22 at
Midian. Yeah.
Midian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, brother. Verse 22, as he traveled towards Midian, he said, my Lord, guide me in the right path. MashaAllah. Verse 23, when he reached Midian's water, he found a crowd of people watering and noticed two women waiting on the side. He said, what is it that you need? They said, we are not able to water until the crowd um, disperse, disperses, and our father is an old man. Verse 24, he watered for them, then turned to the shade, saying, my Lord, whatever provision you send to me, I am in dire need for it. So, mashallah, you could see by reading this, you could see by reading these verses that things are starting like to look a little better for Moses. And mashallah, Moses was always thinking about God. He was always imploring him. We could see from the verses, and now it's like things are looking up now. He's seeing a little hope, and things are getting better for him. And he tells God like he's in dire need of this. So mashallah, and Moses still imploring God. Very important to always implore God and always always say the name of God, mashallah. Verse 25. Soon one of the two women appro- Soon one of the two women approached him shyly and said, my father invites you to pay you for watering for us. When he met him and told him his story, he said, have no fear. You have been saved from the oppressive people. Mashallah, it just goes to show you that you put your trust on God, God will always deliver. Mashallah, God is with the believers and with the righteous. And mashallah, we know all these things really happen. Word for word, they really happen because we know from the mathematical miracle, mashallah. So it's exactly what happened, and it's the same today, and it will always be the same. Mashallah, God is with the righteous, and God is most gracious, most merciful. Moses marries. One of the two women said, "Oh, my father, hire him. He is the best one to hire, for he is strong and honest." Verse 27, he said, I wish to offer one of my two daughters for you to marry in return for working for me for 8 pilgrimages. If you make them 10, it will be voluntary, 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 voluntary on your part. I do not wish to make this matter too difficult for you. You will find me God willing righteous. So mashallah, we know the father of of these women, um, the um, the father of these women was righteous, mashallah, and it shows that he was righteous because he helped Moses, with work, with Job. Moses was in a by God's sleep. And Moses was in a not too of a good place, mashallah. Um, he was a too in a bad place because he had God, and we all know that's the best thing ever. But we could tell that this man was righteous. He helped Moses with a job, and and he says it like in the verse, like he's telling Moses like he's not even trying to make it difficult. He's like trying to make it easy and comfortable, mashallah. And so yeah, verse 28. He said, it is an agreement between me and you. Whichever period I fulfill, you will not be averse to either one. God is the grantor of what we said. So, mashallah, once again, Moses is making the fact that God knows everything, mashallah. So, everything that they said, God knows. And then now we know, mashallah, like I don't think Moses or this righteous man knew that we'll this time we'll end up seeing the miracle, and mashallah, even proving this statement that Moses just said even more, mashallah, because we know, now these words actually it happened exactly. So mashallah, that's something amazing. Verse 29, back to Egypt. Verse 29. When he had fulfilled his obligation, he traveled with his family towards Egypt. He saw from the slope of Mount Sin, he saw from the slope of Mount Sinai a fire.
Sinai.
Sinai, yeah, mashallah. From the thing, brother, from the slope of Mount Sinai, a fire. He said to his family, "Stay here. I have seen a fire. Maybe I can bring to you news, or a portion a portion of the fire to warm you." So mashallah, it seems like here, like I understand it, like he didn't have an idea, he didn't have no idea what was gonna happen. Like I'm pretty sure, like he was thinking probably somebody's there, and I could bring information, or like probably directions. I'm not sure, or something like that. Or and then he says fire to warm you. So mashallah, and it will still be provisions for God, but we know, we'll read right now that what he received was like something so big, mashallah, more than fire to warm you, and or news, mashallah. Moses appointed, verse 30. When he reached it, he was caught from the edge of the right side of the valley, in the blessed spot where the burning bush was located. O Moses, this is me, God, Lord of the universe. Mashallah. Verse 31, throw down your staff. When he saw it, moving like a demon, he turned around and fled. O Moses, come back. Do not be afraid. You are perfectly safe. So, mashallah, we see that this sign of God, mashallah, frightened Moses, mashallah, and he got frightened, and God calmed him, mashallah, with his voice, and with the revelation he was showing him, mashallah, and telling him that you are perfectly safe, like the verse says, mashallah. God said, no, God said, do not be afraid, you are perfectly safe, mashallah. Verse 32, put your hand into your pocket, it will come out white without a blemish. Fold your wings and settle down from your fear. These are two proofs from your Lord, to be shown to Pharaoh and his elders. They have been wicked people. So mashallah, God is explaining to Moses, these are two miracles, two proofs from your Lord, to be shown to Pharaoh and his elders. Mashallah, like we know, you know, these people, Pharaoh and their leaders and the people that surrounded Pharaoh, they were very wicked people. So, and still, mashallah, you know, God is telling Moses that, you know, he's gonna go and send them the message, mashallah. You know, still, um, you know, God is most gracious, most merciful. So, mashallah. And God is telling Moses like this is gonna be his task, basically getting him ready for what came after this, mashallah. 30, verse 33, he said, "My Lord, I killed one of them, and I fear lest they kill me." So, mashallah, you know, Moses is thinking back now, and he's still, you know, he's a human being, mashallah. And God lets us know, you know, like we're not perfect, mashallah. So Moses is still, yeah, he was a prophet, you know, and prophets and messengers. God still lets us know, you know, they're humans like us, so they make mistakes, mashallah. And you know, right here Moses is expressing just a normal feeling, you know, that we all feel. And he's not I don't know if I could say doubt, mashallah, but he's he's thinking, you know, he's like, mashallah, but this ends up stifling his faith. So Moses says, "My Lord, I killed one of them, and I fear lest they kill me." So, mashallah, you know, he's thinking about this thing. Verse 34. Also,
Okay,
my
so
brother.
verse 33, we're reading up till verse 33.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. So this is if you guys have any questions, mashallah, thank you, mashallah.
Right. Mashallah. Thank you, brother. Yeah, so first I want to say that, mashallah means that this is God's gift to me, So I think sometimes we all make that mistake, like, we use these words,
Yeah,
but I think
I know,
it's
brother. Yeah,
important. It's
yeah, I
important
know.
to,
It's very important. I know. I was thinking about this last time too, brother. I say
uh-huh,
mashallah, Allah, you know, and sometimes I supposed to say um
God
God
willing.
willing, or you know, or praise God,
Uh-huh.
mashallah. You know,
Yeah.
it's something. Yeah, I say a lot. You know, it's something I gotta work on, brother. You're right.
Yeah. I was gonna say mashallah.
You're right, brother. I was thinking about this,
Yeah.
brother. Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, so thank you so much for mashallah, good job. And I was gonna say that yeah, you explained very well about the story of real life story. I mean, of course, when we read it, I mean, these accounts of these messengers, and the lives of the believers are, I mean, the way, God plans it out is so amazing, that
Yes.
it looks like it almost feels like a story. But we understand that, these, like you said, these are all mathematically confirmed
Right.
accounts of things that actually happened.
Yes,
And,
brother.
and and it shows to us, the omnipotence of God and how God plans for the believers, like especially, his whole life. I mean, his whole life from start to finish. When we think about, how God decided to save him and make him a messenger, God had his whole life planned out. When all these other babies were getting killed, his mother was inspired by God, to throw him in the box. Now, I think one of the comments you had made about these verses was about how God inspired his mother. So
Praise
we
God.
know that God can inspire us in many ways, in any way He wants, through angels, through inspiration from Him by sending a messenger or anything. But it doesn't
Mhm.
say exactly how she was
Yes, brother.
inspiring.
Yeah,
So
that's what
it's,
I. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
but
what I was saying.
yeah, mashallah. And yeah, so I mean, it's not really important, but the
Right.
important thing is that God inspired her and gave her the confidence, to do such a thing, right? I mean, if anybody would see her do that, they would think that she's out of her mind, and they would say,
Right.
you're not a responsible
Praise
parent.
God.
Like, what are
Yeah.
you doing? You know?
Yes.
and people
Yeah.
would laugh at her and stuff, but
Yeah.
of course, she had the kind of confidence to put her baby, little baby in the water like that while all the other babies were getting killed. But also, this was the only chance probably of his survival in her eyes. There was no other option that she could think of, and but how God planned for her. I mean, imagine, putting a baby in there, a baby so light, and water, you don't really control the current of the water. I mean, you could just toss the baby over and the baby would drown.
Right, brother.
And God say, God guides and God protects, and plans, every single point of our life. I mean, He's in full control of everything. Like nothing happens by chance, and we see how then God, allowed him to reunite with his mother. So, and He gave him all the care and love that he needed as a child from his own mother, because
Praise
he was
God.
a righteous person,
Right.
and God took care of him. Um, and so that is also a reminder for us. And also, the fact that when he I mean, also the fact that God allowed him to be to grow up in Pharaoh's palace, and with presence of Pharaoh and everything, as long as he needed to be there, God allowed him to be there, and when it was time for him to leave, the conditions were such that he had to run away. And so if you think about it, like he had to get married to this particular person in another country, right?
And
And
praise
all
God. Yeah.
so far away, and he went there and he stayed there for as long as he needed to stay there, and then come back at a very specific time as God planned it, so that he
Right.
could free the children of Israel and give message to Pharaoh, mashallah. And
Right.
the fact that but the fact that when he was stranded, in this country that he was not familiar with, how he turned towards God and implored him, right? I mean, a lot of times people would, not think about God, and, look for worldly, ways to, seek help first, but I think it's a reminder for us that, you know, when we need something, we understand that we recognize that God is the only one who provides for us, and He's the only one who controls everything. So when you need something, first and foremost, you should turn to God. Anything that you need. I mean, imploring God for anything, even material things. Like He's imploring to God for material, right? Provisions is
Praise
material.
God. Yes.
And
And
He's
right
imploring.
after, mashallah, like right after, like something good, what happened, and like you
Hmm.
said, it's very important because he was always imploring, like he was always
Hmm.
imploring God, and we have talked about these, like about this in Quran studies, and and Friday prayers, that how important it is to always implore God, and Moses is a
Hmm.
great example to these verses.
Also,
Yeah. Praise God, brother.
praise be to God. Yeah, and so God immediately answered his prayer. God
Yes,
immediately provided for him, and got him work. Got him provisions, got him a family. To support him in every way. And this shows to us that God is the best provider, and if as long as you're righteous and you do everything to please God, God is the one who's gonna be that faithful, like that faithful friend, who never will disappoint you ever. He will be unlike anything or anyone else, that you could think of, that can maybe forget you, or anything, but God will never be that way. God has a promise with us, and God never break his promise. God never makes a mistake. God never is like unaware. He never goes to sleep or anything. Like he's not too busy. You know, he's
Praise God, brother. Yes.
he's God. You know, so he knows. But we just have to do our part and turn to God, remember God, and know that He's the source of everything. And whenever we need anything, our focus should be on God. Like, I mean, even if you have a headache, let's say, right? You're
Yeah.
taking a medicine, but remember, even if you're going to the doctor, you're gonna ask God to heal you, right? Don't forget to
Right.
ask God to help you. Even if you need something from some person, you have to go first ask God, because God is the one who controls this person or that person, or something that is stuck, like something that needs to happen, and you're waiting for it. Like, let's say, anything related, like, let's say, immigration, or your job, or some other affair of yours, that needs to happen. It's stuck. you know
Right.
before you do anything, remember God, that because He's the one who controlling everything, and then
Very
God will,
important. Yes, brother.
yeah, and then God will look after it. I mean, if we think, because that's the fine line between idol worship and
Right.
worshiping God. If you think that anything besides God can benefit us or help us in any way, that's by definition idol worship, right?
Yes,
And when
brother.
you implore God, when you turn to God, you're remembering God, you're worshiping Him. It's a form of worship. And so we must always try to do that in every situation. When
Praise
things are
God, brother.
good, yeah, when things are good, even then we thank God, for those things, and acknowledge that, thank you, God. Like, for example, the Master of the Covenant, when he's talking about who's your God, the sermon,
Mm-hmm.
he said that, when the light, like something so simple, right? Like, say, when you're driving, and he said the light turned green. Many people would just be like, "Oh yeah, the light turned green. That's just a coincidence, and I'm just gonna pass." But he says, "When the light turned green, you thank God that the light turned green. Like, you were just passing by, and just as you passed by, before you had to stop, the light turned green, and you can pass. That's an opportunity to remember God.
Yeah.
You know."
Right,
That's
brother.
an
Yeah.
opportunity for us to think about God, because all these small things that seem so tiny and small, they all count, to
Yes, brother.
something that's going to be big, and something that grows our soul, and, shapes us into, the souls that we become at the end of our life, right? If we live like that and remember God, I mean, our souls will be so strong, and, God will fix everything in our lives.
Praise God, brother. Yes, it's so it's a, you explained it like beautifully, brother. How you explain how remembering God is so important, because like how you said, like I like anything, like you could fall to idol worship so like easy. It's not only like we talk about a lot. It's not always like these hardcore idol worshippers. It's,
Hmm.
it's it's not always like that. You must always remember God, like before you do anything, or have God in your conscience all the time, mashallah, because it's very
Hmm.
important. That's what makes us submitters.
Hmm.
Praise God, brother. Yeah. Very, yes,
Okay. Praise be to God.
mashallah.
Oh
Praise
my
God.
God. All right. So anybody else has any comments or questions? Are there any one has any off-topic questions from anyone? Mm-hmm. All right. So, well, I guess we can still go through the verses a little bit.
So continue,
Mm-hmm.
brother.
Yeah, no, I mean, we can still talk about the
Yes.
verses. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, verse 30 reminds me of how people make fun of God's revelations, and uh, I remember I was just listening to something on the radio a couple of years back, and this comedian was making fun of Moses because he says, "Oh, God spoke." He says, "God spoke to him." Moses said, and but when you see what Moses was doing, he said there was a burning bush, so they're laughing at Moses, saying like Moses was like smoking something, like
Yeah, I know, brother.
so.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of times, when I'm watching like a movie or a show or something, and it's just they do these like
Mhm,
horrible things. Like sometimes I skip
mhm,
the whole thing, or sometimes I just shut
mhm,
everything down. It's just
yeah, that's the right thing to do,
yeah,
because
yeah,
obviously they're disbelievers, and they laugh at
yeah,
these things to
right,
repel their people, you know
right,
So, but we understand from the Quran that, as you said, based on the Quran's mathematical code, that everything, everything happened. I mean, Moses was a real person who lived on this planet. Everybody knows
mhm,
that. Nobody can say Moses. There was no such person as Moses on earth, right? And we know the
right,
entire history. These people crossed the sea. Obviously, how did they do it? I mean, people witnessed it. Even the scientists cannot disregard, they know that this actually happened, but they're looking for scientific explanations to why this happened, right? But
right,
but they still can explain the fact that why it happened at the time that it happened, right? It could happen at any time. Like, let's say it's some kind of a scientific anomaly that you have a scientific explanation for it, that okay, there was the sea parted, and then it just got combined again. But then why did it happen at that time when they needed to pass, right?
right,
And those people survived and the other people drowned. Why did it happen at that time? They don't have a scientific explanation. They will never have a scientific explanation for that. And
right.
yeah, subhanallah.
Praise be to God, brother, because it's here. It's the mathematical miracle. That's the um
Mm-hmm.
science, and that's the what backs it. It's just it's unarguable, brother. That's what
Mm-hmm.
they should um that beats whatever scientific thing they could
Mm-hmm.
come up with.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the scientists, obviously, if you want to think about science, they don't have an answer to fight the Quran's mathematical code,
Right.
so they just ignore it,
Right,
They
brother.
think they'll just ignore it, then they,
You even have some that one video where the messenger of the covenant is talking with that one scientist and the radio. I think it's like 5 minutes the video, and he's
hmm
telling him like I have to prove, like, you can't escape no more. He's telling him, like,
hmm
and he's just the scientist is just
hmm
blaspheming the things like that.
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Khalifa himself was a scientist, I mean,
Right, I know. Right, brother.
so it's
Mashallah.
like one scientist talking to another, but
Yes,
mashallah,
that's just,
that,
yes,
oh,
brother. Yes, that just proves the disbelief.
hmm
Because yes, and actually this me and my brother were talking about this too. How
hmm
he was a scientist too, so it's not like, and like this video how we're talking about right now. He can't say nothing because he has his degree too. He's just
hmm
all he's saying is to worship God alone, and I have to by God's leave he has to prove. That's all
hmm
he's saying, and these people just are blocked. Masha, they're blocked by
hmm
God. Praise God.
hmm hmm Okay, so I guess if there are no other comments or questions from anyone else, um, God willing, we can conclude our study. So thank you, Brother Rafael, for leading the study.
Praise God,
And
bro.
yeah, praise be to God. God willing, our next English Quran study would be on Saturday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time. God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. God bless you all.